So what are some of the problems that you see as a Detroiter?
Well, I mean, the problem is simple. It's just an economic problem. You've had a excess of jobs for over 30 some odd years, so you wonder why people leave cities. People come to cities to work, live, and play. So whenever you take one of those three away, it really removes the purpose of being in that city and wanting to have residents there. But then you also add to that, you add to the consistent conservative push to take away voting rights for majority minorities in the city. You see the push to make sure that good paying jobs are pretty much none in the city of Detroit, and you see that the vacuum pretty much just expound itself. But then also in the last 4 years, you've seen a failure to share revenue, state sales tax revenue from the state down to the city of Detroit and other cities in financial crisis, which has been really the big crux to push us all over the edge.
In determining which assets have value, the popular example is the Detroit Institute of Art, right. But you have other things like the municipal water supply, you have Belle Isle. Right. I think that a lot of people aren't looking to say, these public assets are going to be sold off at pennies on the dollar to satisfy debt obligations, where they're going to be paying out bondholders first at the expense of the citizens of Detroit and the retirees here. So what are you doing to mobilize people to make them aware of the threat?
The first step is education. Because a lot of people don't know, like, okay, well, selling assets, they're still thinking that we're still in some type of short-term deficit. The fact is that now the city of Detroit is in a cash surplus, so every month we're making money. So that's the first step. Let people know where we really are financially. As long as the emergency manager can do things and operate in this cloak of darkness where he says, oh, well, last week it was the short-term cash flow problem. This week it's the retirees. Next week we got too much grass on Belle Isle, so we have to sell it. That's pretty much the narrative we've been hearing, but we don't get the facts. So that's number one. Number two, we encourage every last resident, every voter in the state of Michigan to remember that in November 2012, we voted against emergency management. We voted for recovery and reinvestment into our municipalities that are facing financial crisis. So placing in any dictator, and this is a message to Governor Snyder and to our entire state legislator, that we don't accept dictatorship in this state, and we don't accept dictatorship in this country, and also that the bankruptcy move that Governor Snyder approved a few weeks back was unconstitutional, that we did not want to go into bankruptcy, that the whole purpose of going through this financial crisis issue and working through the process through democracy was to come to some type of conclusion. Over 18 months ago, 33 Detroit public unions came up with almost $200 million in savings that could have been put into place right now. The problems that they're talking about with retiree health care, that was solved over 18 months ago. But our elected officials didn't heed to that call, and even the folks right now, our governor and this emergency manager, have still ignored that to usurp the law and push bankruptcy and austerity on the people of the city of Detroit.
Being that at the core of this, there are some very real economic problems that have to be addressed, how would you address them economically?
The way we start first is with real state and local partnership. I spoke earlier in our forum today about the fact that state local income tax is not withheld by big businesses in this city. Right now, the University of Michigan owes almost $4 million to the city of Detroit because they don't withhold the local income taxes. So it's just simple stuff. Blocking and tackling things are the things that we need to do right now to shore up our cash flow. Okay, we've got a new bridge that's going to be built right here in the city of Detroit to make sure we can cross from Canada to the United States. We want to make sure that at least 90% of those jobs are for Detroiters. And let's start training people for those jobs now instead of waiting until the project comes and then we give these guys the crumbs. These are the people who need to have a jobs plan right now. We also are hoping and really pushing for 100% use of our HUD dollars here in the city of Detroit, not just for low-income investment, but also middle-income investment for working families who make a good income, so we can build vibrant communities and communities that are already on the brink. Let's expand those and make them better, instead of just waiting until they all the way die out and we have to redevelop.
So 92% of the city of Detroit's black. Mm-hmm. What is the unemployment rate for black people in the city of Detroit?
The unemployment rate for the city of Detroit, period, has been estimated is in some places upwards to 30-35%. So let's just be honest about that. And unemployment has no real race to it, has no color. It's an issue for the city of Detroit. So since we haven't really gotten a handle on our unemployment issue, we're not bringing jobs. We don't support small businesses in the city of Detroit. We're a port city. We're an international waterway. And there's no way in the world that we should be shipping hundreds of millions of tons across our bridges and through our tunnels, and we don't see any of those products stop here. That's the problem, that we've become a pass-through and not a place where we actually produce things.
A lot of people would say, well, Kevin Orr is a black man, so he's part of the black community. How can this be a racist problem? Can you explain how and why it is?
Well, you know what? Black folks hold other black folks into slavery all the time. And so that just because it's people the same hue that are doing the same damage to someone else doesn't mean that there's no longer an injustice. That doesn't make it right. The fact is that the policy itself is racist. So if it's a black person applying the policy, a white person applying the policy, it's still a racist policy. So if I wrote it in the pen of racism, that's what it is. And that's what we really work to fight.
In this world we live in, where do I begin? Won't get too far if truth ain't your friend. You can pretend, stick with the norm, keep it status quo and get misinformed. Undercurrent, under the surface, makes